Hi, I'm Reilly Ernst, the podcast coordinator for Crave the Sound. On this week's episode of Crave the Podcast, Kiara Demare interviews Joe Avio on his Canadian background, releasing projects made at USC, and his debut EP, Whatever Will We Do? Yeah, baby, enjoy! So how have you been? How's COVID treating you in quarantine and all that?
I've been good. I've been really lucky with the whole quarantine situation. It hasn't affected me too drastically. I basically sit and make music all day, and I did that before and have kept doing that. I think I'm a little more wary of people coming over now, but there hasn't been that much difference, which is, I'm very lucky, grateful. Yeah.
That's nice. I know it kind of for some people it's like pushed their creativeness, and inspired them, and some people it's kind of just put a wrench in it. So glad you did that.
Totally.
So I kind of want to start off with just like some basic questions kind of about you and like where you come from. So you grew up in Canada?
Yeah, I grew up on a little island at the far west coast of Canada called Vancouver Island. I lived in a town called Victoria. And it was pretty great. Not a ton of stuff going on for sure. Yeah, it was really pretty. 9 months of rain a year, but yeah, it was nice. It's funny. Yeah, I didn't actually know that I was American until a couple of years ago. I didn't realize, I guess, or I never really talked about it with my dad, who was born in the States and lived here for a large portion of his life. So yeah, everything's still feels like kind of fresh, even though I've been here for a couple of years now, but yeah.
I've never been to Canada, hopefully one day, but
yeah, totally. Once the travel ban's lifted,
definitely.
I actually couldn't get in last time I went. They didn't let me get on a plane because my passport expired. So I had to get it was a whole thing, but hopefully someday you can visit. It's not a bad place.
Growing up, your mother was a professional singer. Do you think?
Yeah. She was actually, just to clarify, my mom hasn't been able to walk or any of that since I was a lot younger. She has or was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis a long time ago, but she was a singer like back in the day when she was in her 20s and 30s. So when she was a lot younger, but yeah, there was definitely a huge musical influence there for sure.
Right, definitely. Growing up, what was like your favorite genre, or what genre kind of inspired you the most, do you think?
Oh man, just like really good pop music. But I didn't start listening to like pop and rock and rap and that sort of stuff until I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. I was raised like listening to classical.
So you're able to play like a multitude of instruments. And so for you personally, so one, which one is like your favorite? And then two, which one do you think has kind of helped you the most throughout your musical career?
So probably guitar for both. It's like I kind of shifted a lot when I was a kid, and I would flip between things. I went to a school where music was like relatively important compared to other schools, I guess. It's about like strings in elementary school, and then swapped over to like playing band instruments in middle school, and then the high school. It's funny. There weren't like tons of serious musicians at St. Michael's, so I ended up like playing in every ensemble and like different things and whatever. So I don't know, but it's funny. Guitar, I guess something about guitar, you're like closer to it. I felt like it was easier to emote on guitar because it's just like your hands and the strings. There isn't a buffer. I think you probably made that argument with a lot of other instruments, but like that's sort of like what it felt like in grade 6 when I'd been playing piano and whatever. So yeah, and I write a lot on guitar, and it's kind of always stuck with me. And guitar was my as soon as I started playing guitar, I was like, okay, right, I want to get serious about this, and that was sort of what opened the door, I guess.
Definitely took quite the leap moving from Canada to go to USC, and it paid off for sure. But kind of what's like your biggest takeaway so far from that experience?
From what? From attending USC, or from just being in the States, or?
Yeah, just kind of taking that major leap for your career.
I don't think I would be able to like do what I do as easily in Victoria, probably. It's a much smaller, there's great music there, but it's a really small community, obviously, compared to somewhere like LA. So I think it was a well-needed shift for me, for sure. And I've been able to expand my network here in a way that would never have been possible for me elsewhere. So yeah, that has helped a lot, for sure.
And so your song Models is kind of about like your expectations in LA and kind of how, they weren't exactly met. Do you still feel that way?
I mean, yeah, it's models was a funny one. Yeah, like I guess so. I mean, I kind of wrote it right when I got here, and I was like, oh, blah, 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 like very like angry and angsty and whatever. And I mean, it's like, yeah, it's funny. There's like weird pockets everywhere. So I guess the thing with models, like, yeah, a lot of that stuff like does exist, but it definitely isn't like, the norm or like everywhere or whatever. But I guess I kind of dropped into it to a weird crowd of people right when I got here, and like everything was crazy and expensive and whatever. So, but that definitely isn't like the same now, or I've like moved away from that a little bit.
So your first song release was actually a class project, right?
Oh yeah. So okay, so Baby, we're talking about like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I did this song Baby 2 years ago, and that was the first. I think that was probably the first song I did for class here, which was hilarious. Like so I really didn't know what I was doing when I got to the States, and like especially a school like Thornton, like everybody's so talented, and like it's really small and whatever. So I showed up to this songwriting class, which was a requirement for my major, and everybody was just like so good. Like the level of talent there was just unbelievable, and a lot of people are having like a great deal of success now that we're in that class, and it was a really inspiring place to be for sure, but also super competitive. And so we were tasked to do a song and start with the groove. That was the thing. It was supposed to be a groove based song, so like start with the drum loop, or start with like the figure out the rhythms first. I had rather limited production capabilities at the time, so my answer to doing a groove based song was just to like bump the kick and snare a tiny little bit, as if it was like the super original, like, oh wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it worked out pretty well. I love that song. Yeah,
no, it's definitely groovy. I like it. I think it's really catchy.
cool. Thank you. I'm glad.
Yes. And so you do all the production, kind of all the engineering behind all your songs as well?
Well, not anymore. It started out everything was just me, but then the further I got into the process, the more I started to involve other people, and like, thank God, because I don't know, it like I definitely wouldn't be able to like put the amount of hours I do into stuff, or it wouldn't be as enjoyable, I guess. So like I started to collaborate more. Like I did a song with Grant Batin, or his Instagram is Call Me Grant. Grant is his artist name. He's like one of the most talented producers I've ever worked with ever. He's amazing. And that was really fun. That was so that was Without Your Love. And then another song was a co-write with my really dear friend Adam Urone. And so the song Waste I co-wrote with him.
Okay.
But for like almost all of the songs, there's this engineer producer and like one of my dearest friends named Cole Mitchell, who is with me like almost every step of the way. Basically I'll like sketch something out. And then it kind of differs song to song. Like some songs will be almost finished, and some songs will completely rebuild it. And the way we did it for this record is I would go in, and then Cole and I would just kind of like start to pull things out, put things back together, and like really go through everything with a fine tooth comb, I guess is the right expression, and like make everything perfect.
Yeah.
Or like as perfect as we could. It's not like by any means a perfect record, but like just to the best of our abilities, at least.
For you personally, what qualifies a track to be good enough for release? Or like, have you ever had to go back? Like, have you ever like fully made a song and then just not exactly liked it and had to go back and workshop it? Or do you kind of just go with the flow, what you're feeling, and you just call it?
I don't know. I mean, like, I think that in terms of production, I don't like, I know, like when I'll start something, I know what it is that I'm working to achieve.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll like, sometimes it'll be in the middle of a mix, and like it'll just sound like I'll listen to it and just be like, oh God, like if I've been at it for like, too many hours in a row or whatever, and you can't really hear what's going on. But it's easy to forget like what you're trying to like, work toward. That's a terrible way to explain that. But I think that a lot of it's in mixing. So like trying to make sure that things that need to be focused on are being focused on.
Yeah.
And that you're trying to like bolster the important parts, like the lyrics and the melodies and whatever. So I'll have sometimes we'll have to like take different approaches to the mixes, but usually the production stays the same.
And so you just released your debut EP, Whatever Will We Do? It's fantastic, by the way. I love it.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Yes. So how does that process kind of differ from just singles?
So the whole thing was actually finished about a year ago, which is really weird. It was like, like finished-ish. It was sort of, we had a listening party. Like none of my team had heard like what I'd been really doing since Baby, and then everybody came over and it was really fun. Did this like big listening thing, and it wasn't like what it is today, but it like kind of like the idea, like there were a couple songs on it that aren't on it now. Nothing was mixed, and the production like came a long way since then. But like everything was listenable, except for, it's funny, I actually met Adam, who did Waste with me, like 2 or 3 days ago, but like a year ago. Sorry, okay. A year and a couple of days ago, which is funny because like, so Waste obviously wasn't done, but we had this night where I went through and showed him all the music. So it's kind of funny. Like it's been finished for a while. To answer your question, I guess there's no difference because the singles have just been like pieces of the puzzle. But in terms of like putting things out, it's always supposed to be like, I'm very much like, feel that I'm a project oriented artist or whatever. And the idea of like singles to like tell an entire story or whatever is weird. I grew up listening to full records through and through. I still listen to like full, I try my best to, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, the singles are always supposed to just be like word to, go toward the album. If that made sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that sequencing on the album is super nice. It flows really well. And definitely like being able to tell a full story is definitely, I feel like, would be a lot easier with like an EP. And so Whatever Will We Do? How'd you come up with that?
It wasn't until everything was finished.
Mm-hmm.
It was like probably the last thing to happen in terms of like the actual creation of the project. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like supposed to be a coming of age thing ever, but because it was like my life 18 through 23, 20 through 23, it kind of became a coming of age thing a little bit. And like with the move, I wrote about like the move and coming to the States and all that stuff. So I guess it was kind of this like, you kind of encounter like I don't know, like the paradox of choice a little bit when you're our age. You know what I mean? There's like this overwhelmingly large amount of ways that you can react to any different situations, and about a million different situations that you've no idea how to react to because you're just learning and picking everything up for the first time. And I guess the phrase "whatever will we do" kind of encapsulated this, like, when you're kind of frozen and just don't really know which direction that you should go in, which I think is something that people experience a ton at our age.
Definitely.
But yeah.
Okay, so if you could possibly just take me through kind of your creative process from like having the first start idea of a song and then kind of playing it out and actually making it a real thing. What's that process?
Totally. It's different every single time, which is sick. So I really enjoy that like no songs really are created, with the exception of, so off the record there's 2 songs, Holy and Anymore, that were made like the same day. I guess I was doing like, this is a USC thing again, so we were supposed to make music for dancers because the dance school here, Kaufman, was doing like this collaborative thing. But anyway, I thought that was really inspiring. I thought like, oh, that's it. My favorite part of making music usually is the instrument. I mean, actually that's not true. It's like, I don't really have a favorite part, but I do really enjoy doing the instrumentals. It's a lot of fun. Like and so I made those 2 on the same night with the idea that they would be like, without a lyric, and they would be for dancers or whatever. And I kind of was thinking about movement, and so that was really fun for me. And then eventually Anymore, so the second of those 2, I had another song that I was trying to write on just on guitar, and then it kind of became a top line for the other one, and kind of just ended up working really well. I think sometimes in music you have like these ideas, and like until they're fully realized, they'll kind of like pop up in a bunch of different forms. So I'll have like little fragments of things that are really the same thing, but it takes me a while to put them together. But then like for Forever too, which is the last song on the project, we did we were tracking drums for like a different song that ended up not becoming the song, but it was like slower and whatever. So then I like edited them all together, and it became kind of this like weird country thing a little bit. But yeah, it's totally different every time for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely keeps you on your toes for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh. So I guess you could say definitely different for each song, but is there tend to be a part of the production or like the making of it that usually trips you up, or is it just different for each song?
It's always the lyric. It's always the lyric. The lyric is like so important. I take a really long time to write lyrics. Like for me, like unless I'm like working with somebody, it's usually faster. But if I'm on my own, it'll take me like hours, days. Like I need to really get like, it sounds weird and like diva-y, but I really need to like get in the zone. And like, so it'll just be me listening to the instrumental or whatever for like hours and hours, and I'll write something out and then rewrite it like 30 different times until it's kind of like exactly how I want it to be. Lyrics are really difficult. It's like, yeah, there's like a million different ways to say something, and figuring out what's the most appropriate is challenging for sure.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm not creative enough to do that. There's no way. So do you have are you currently working on any projects? Are you like allowed to talk about them?
I mean, project 2, I guess, is like kind of happening. I spent the fall doing production for like some other people, which is yeah, my main focus is just being like getting in a bunch of sessions as safely as possible, I guess. And like I've been doing like tons of tracks, but I'm not really like, I guess I'm kind of like in it now creatively, but it took a long time to get to the point where I was ready to write for myself. It took a little while. But yeah, just like, producing, like trying to say yes to as many things as I possibly can.
In what ways would you say you've seen yourself evolve throughout your career so far? Production or vocals or anything kind of?
I think that I am a singer now-ish, which I didn't used to. I mean, I'm barely a singer now, but I definitely like have started to pay a lot more attention to my voice seriously, and I'm starting to realize that you can't just edit anything into a good vocal take, which is what I used to think. So, I think now I take it a lot less seriously than I did when I started the project. Not the project. It's not that I don't take the project seriously, but like writing, the project is very like, I mean, it's hopeful, but a lot of it's pretty like sad and down tempo, I guess, or not like down. I don't know, but it's not like the most like, yay, happy thing. And like, I think I realized that when I'm happy, I can write about that too. Like it used to just be, I used to write like mainly about the lows, and now I've gotten to a point where I feel better equipped to talk about the highs as well. And so that's definitely been a change.
So like you were saying, Whatever Will We Do kind of turned into this coming of age story. And so as you evolve, like as a person and a musician, do you think your sound has, and do you think, is it hard to find your voice sometimes when you're transitioning so much and you're becoming a new person and stuff?
It's funny, from a production standpoint, it's like, and a music standpoint, it kind of like, I always feel like I'm chasing certain things, certain sounds. I'm always referencing things like there's, my recently listened or whatever just changes so rapidly. Just every time I'm working on something, I always like I'm, listening to a million different things I used to be more like that. But I think that now I'm much more, I think I know what I sound like a little bit more now. And now that the project's finished too, because it used to be like, it wasn't really supposed to be a project. It was just like a bunch of different songs, and like that's what it turned into. But now I think that has kind of helped me like figure out what I sound like a little bit, which is good.
Yeah. Has there ever been like a moment where you're kind of just trying to find yourself and your music is just not there, or like it's struggling as well?
I go through bursts creatively.
Yeah.
So I'll do like 3 to 6 months at a time, where like for me it's just like like hammering stuff out, and like I'm feeling really good about the stuff I'm creating or whatever. And I mean I'm able to like or create like all the time. There's not really like but I feel like when I'm really really working well for my own stuff, at least it'll be like a couple months at a time, and then I'll kind of step away from it. And it usually takes like a good song or like hearing something really fleshed out for me to get excited about it again. So yeah, I definitely go in fits and starts with my own stuff, certainly.
Yeah, I feel like that's also a good way to kind of not burn out as well, because I feel like
Yeah, totally.
serious thing. And so I know everything's definitely up in the air right now, as you know, the world kind of waits. But do you know what you have in store? Like,
we're probably just releasing music. Honestly, it's just it's been weird not being able to play live a lot, or at all, I guess, because that was kind of like our plan. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna get on the road and we're gonna, you know, and like obviously like here we are. It's all Instagram and nothing else. Which I'm terrible with social media. I was never like a huge social media person, and so the whole, you know, having to like rely solely on it has been pretty tough. I think yeah, just like more music we're gonna start releasing hopefully in February, maybe earlier, maybe later. I don't really know yet, but yeah, just working toward another project, and yeah, same old.
yeah, that's exciting.
Totally.
Well, that's kind of all the questions I have for you. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I mean, just if you have a second, definitely go check out the record. It's on Spotify and everywhere else I guess music is available. I'm really excited about it, and that's about it. Thank you so much for having me. Really, it's been super fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking, and I'm looking forward to seeing where you end up and how far you go.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you for listening to Crave the Podcast. Crave the Podcast is produced by myself, Jake Trujillo, Zac Clement, and Kalyan Lemercier. Make sure to follow Crave the Sound on Instagram and subscribe wherever you like to listen. You can also check out our YouTube channel for weekly episodes. See you next week!